Hi all, it's CJ and little puppy dog here. I thought I'd do some kind of Q&A, run through some, I haven't actually been asked these questions, but I thought maybe this would be a question you might have. But if you do have a question and you'd like me to do a Q&A session, put below in the comments what your question is, and if we have enough of them, I will try to do a further video covering your questions. Now, I am not for 1 second saying I can answer every single question, because I can't. But, as always, I will try my hardest. So these are just things that I jotted down that I didn't know, that I've learned as I've gone along. So, you have fibromyalgia and you have ME, myalgic encephalitis, which is the same as chronic fatigue syndrome. So ME and CFS, they're the same thing. Now, one of the symptoms of fibromyalgia is chronic fatigue. But you can have ME, CFS, same thing, chronic fatigue. You can have that without the fibromyalgia. So fibromyalgia comes with chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue doesn't necessarily come with fibromyalgia. I hope that made some form of sense. So, fibromyalgia is incurable. It doesn't get worse over time, but we have to remember our bodies are aging. So just as anybody that doesn't have fibromyalgia would have issues getting older with arthritis, osteoarthritis, etc., all of those things are going to happen, but they're not happening because you've got fibromyalgia. So it doesn't get worse over time. Did you know that Epsom salts in a warm bath can help with muscle pain? But please, please, please be careful if you have high blood pressure. You need to be careful. I wouldn't advise using them if you have high blood pressure. So I wrote these notes, and some wet puppy paws have been on them. So I'm trying to read them now. And sorry, I have allergies, really bad allergies. Completely out of the blue, just as you do. Get to 62 and suddenly have allergies. Pacing is really important. And I've touched on pacing, but I've not really discussed it in full. I haven't come across many people that have mastered pacing, because when we have a day when we're not as bad as we normally are, we tend to think, well, I've got to get this done, I've got to get that done, and we rush and get this stuff done, and then, oh boy, do we pay for it the following day and the day after. So pacing is really important. What I would say is more important is keep moving. Don't stay in one place for too long, if you can possibly help it. So maybe do a 10-minute task and then have a rest, do another 10 minutes, have a rest. Apologies, my allergies are really bad today. Now, exercising. Doctors will tell you over and over and over to exercise. Now, if you go to the gym and you exercise and you feel good for it, great, keep doing it. You do you. I'm just trying to guide people. I'm not telling you what to do, what not to do. Personally for me, exercising is a no-go for me. But stretching is really good for you. Really, really good to stretch. Can you catch fibromyalgia or ME? No. Is it genetic? There's been so few studies done on this. Some people will be adamant that it is genetic, others not so. I don't know the answer to that question, and I don't think the experts know the answer to that one either. There's a possibility it may be, but then again, is it that, excuse me, and this is just my own thoughts here, one of my siblings has chronic regional pain syndrome / fibromyalgia, and you could say, there you go, it's genetic. Not in our case. It was childhood trauma. We have the same childhood trauma, therefore we have the same illness. Please tell me I'm making sense. Because to my mind, and from my experience, we were all raised the same. So I would say not so much my own personal opinion would be, is it genetic? I think it's more, if you do have siblings with fibromyalgia and you know the trauma that caused your fibromyalgia and it was childhood trauma, were you raised together so you experienced the same trauma? That's just my thoughts for what they're worth. I'm so sorry, this is driving me nuts, I can tell you. Sorry. Right, where did we get to? So, we touched on, does fibromyalgia get worse over time? No, but stress will absolutely make it worse. Now, I worked for 36 plus years, non-stop, didn't have a break throughout all of that. Had my babies, went back to work when they were 8 months old, albeit part-time, but I worked for 36 years, and most of you know I raised my children and worked and ran a home. But I went through 3 incredibly three of the most stressful traumas you could go through in a couple of months, and it knocked my fibromyalgia symptoms out of the park, and I couldn't work. There's no way I can work. No way at all. I mean, my falling over has got so bad. I really do need to see the doctor about the falling over, because, as I say, it's really got bad. Now, another thing, sorry to go off at tangent, I have ADHD. 1,000,000% I have ADHD. I hope you can keep up with me on these videos. I'm doing my best, and that's all anyone can do, isn't it? Is their best. So we're saying no, fibromyalgia does not get worse over time, but stressful situations will raise your symptoms and give you a flare-up. And hopefully you'll only have a flare-up, and then your symptoms will come back down to what they were before. Now, don't forget, I think a lot of us here are about the same age. The menopause. Now, the symptoms that the menopause brings are very, very, very similar to the symptoms of fibromyalgia. So you could be perimenopausal, you could be going through the menopause, and you're thinking, see, my fibromyalgia's getting worse. It is, it's getting worse. Who's to say it's not the menopause that's actually making your symptoms worse? I've always said fibromyalgia is a very, very complex syndrome. So being a syndrome, it's made up of a host of different symptoms. We all have different ones, and different things help us. No one person is the same. We could have 20 of us here in the room. I guarantee you, every single one of us would have different pain rate, different fatigue, level of fatigue, etc., etc. So think about, if you're thinking, oh, this is just my fibromyalgia getting worse, you can sadly go through the menopause at any age. I started mine at about 46, but you can start the menopause much earlier than that, and of course later as well. And just to cheer you up, you never finish the menopause. I've had so many people say, oh, I'm through the menopause now. You're not. Your symptoms might have come down, but you're in the stage of menopause until you kick the bucket. See what I mean? So you're premenstrual before you start your periods. You have your periods, then you're perimenopause, the start of menopause. Then once you're in the stage of the menopause, you stay in that until you croak. Just thought I'd let you know that one. I'm finding it really hard to read this because it's all smudged. Another thing with regard to the menopause, I was utterly shocked to hear this, and it was from a menopause specialist that said this. In the UK, doctors study for approximately 7 years to become doctors. How much of 7 years do you think is dedicated to the menopause? Bear in mind that half of the population is going to go through the menopause at some point in their life. None of us get away with it. It's going to happen at some point. How many years do you think is dedicated to the menopause for doctors when they're studying? 1 afternoon. You heard that. 1 afternoon is dedicated to learning about the menopause. So it goes to show you, if 1 afternoon is given to the menopause, I bet you no time at all. That is fact. That's factual. That came from a menopause specialist. My opinion now, if they give 1 afternoon to something that's going to happen to 50% of the population, every woman born is going to go through the menopause. 1 afternoon is dedicated to that. It makes you wonder, is any time at all dedicated to fibromyalgia? I don't know the answer to that. That's an open-ended question. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? So I just thought I'd come on with those facts. Are there any you didn't know? Are there any you're surprised about? Again, if you'd like me to do a Q&A, pop your question down below. Do not be embarrassed. You can ask any question you like. It doesn't matter what it's about. I will do my best to answer it. And when I worked in education, I would say to my students, the only silly or daft question is the one you don't ask. And I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to say Anne from Broadchurch has asked this. I will just take the questions, make a note of them, and say, this is the question that was asked. I won't say who asked it. This is the answer. Or, I'm sorry, I haven't been able to find an answer. So don't worry. If you don't want me to say your name, I'm not going to say anybody's names anyway. So please feel free to ask any question. I will do my best to answer them. Now, just seeing how long this video's run on, it's run on quite a long time, so I'm going to finish it now. Let me have your thoughts. I'd love to know what you think. And from Puppy Dog and I, we hope you're all doing okay. We love you all to pieces. Namaste, my gorgeous friends. God bless, take care, and we'll see you again soon. Bye now.